The KDKA Sports Desk is brought to you by Xfinity.
All right, welcome back. I just went on and on about how the Penn State-Pitt rivalry is coming to an end here. And I think it's a shame. I don't know your feeling about it, but I want this game to continue, and it doesn't look like it's going to continue anytime soon. And it's because I think both athletic departments are stubborn. If I'm Pitt, at least, I just try to, if you know Penn State's not going to do a home and home, then you say, hey, what about a 3-2, a 6-4, something? Let's just try to keep this going. No. You don't think?
No. I wouldn't do that if I was Pitt. I'd do it with anybody else, I'd do it. With them, I wouldn't do it.
Because of
just because the perception is, they don't need to do that. This is what people need to understand. Pitt people need to get this thing. They don't need to play Penn State. I heard one of the guys on the radio yesterday going on and on and on about how Pitt needs to play Penn State for attendance and all this other stuff. I'll say it again. And, facts, I know, really get in the way of these narratives that people like to have. But since Heinz Field opened, right?
Yeah.
The 6 highest attended seasons, right, did not include Penn State on the home schedule. So the 2 games that they played Penn State here, those 2 seasons weren't among the 6 highest attended seasons since Heinz Field. Pitt can sell tickets if they play meaningful games, if they win, but the problem is they lose too many games. They lose too many games, like losing against Virginia a couple of weeks ago.
And inferior teams.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They lose too many of those kind of games. If they just went, like for instance, the year when they went to the Fiesta Bowl, right? They lost a couple of games early, but every game down the stretch meant something. Mm-hmm. The next year, 2003, they played West Virginia, Virginia Tech. They played, Miami. Those games meant something. When 2009, when they played Cincinnati here, those kind of games actually mean something. So to me, this thing where Pitt needs Penn State to sell tickets, they don't. They've got Notre Dame comes through. If the people at Pitt had any brains, and I think they do, but they're a little bit arrogant sometimes, they would already have a 30 or 40-year deal with West Virginia, home and home. And whatever they get from Penn State is fine. At that point, you've got your rival. And I've always enjoyed West Virginia Pitt games more than Penn State Pitt games.
I'm not saying Pitt needs Penn State or Penn State needs Pitt. I'm not saying that. It's a shame that this rivalry is going to end. I look forward to this game.
But it takes 2 to tango. And if Penn State doesn't want to play, that's fine. Guess what? The guy down in West Virginia said, on the record, we'd love to sign it. So to me, play West Virginia every year.
They got to play one of the 2 teams.
Here's my thing. And West Virginia wants to play.
And I know we talked about this. Get a 30-year deal lined up right now.
And they would do it.
Announce it right before the game tomorrow.
And here's the thing. You have a 30-year deal with them, right? 4 out of 10 years you get Notre Dame based on the ACC agreement, right? So now 4 out of 10 years you're going to get Notre Dame and West Virginia. Okay, if Penn State wants to play, home and home every 10 years or something like that, okay, fine. If not, who cares? And the other thing about it, James Franklin, is, maybe we can make it work in a neutral site.
Where is there a neutral site?
Well, that would be the stupidest thing. That would be 100%.
Philadelphia is the only neutral site.
That would be 100% about recruiting. That's what that would be.
But where are you going to play? The only neutral site is Philadelphia. That makes no sense for Pitt.
You could play, let's play in
D.C.
D.C., let's play in, New Jersey, let's play in Florida or something, you know what I'm saying?
But they're not going to get people to go there. This is what Pat Narduzzi said yesterday about this rivalry coming to an end.
I'm not sad. I'm thinking about Saturday. I give a darn about what happens in the future. Control the controllables. I can't control it. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to be sad. I'm not going to cry. It's what it is. It's a shame, but I'm going to control. We got Penn State right now. That's all I'm worried about. I'm not worried about, if we're going to play them in 10 years.
I get what he's saying. I totally understand that, but he didn't grow up here. I think it means a lot more for Pittsburgh people, Penn State people that live in Pittsburgh. Oh, I know he wants the rivalry, right?
He wants to play the game.
Yes. But I think West Virginia would replace this game in a heartbeat with the feeling of having a bitter rival.
Again, if you have West Virginia and every 4 out of 10 years you're playing Notre Dame, what do you need Penn State for? And then, you fill in around there. with other teams.
I went off earlier. I think they should just restructure college football and everything should be regionalized. And teams like Pitt, Penn State, West Virginia. I mean, who else you're going to throw in there? But they should all be in the same conference.
Well, think about how stupid it is that West Virginia is in a conference with Texas.
Yeah, 800 miles is the closest
and Oklahoma State and Baylor, and not with Pitt, Syracuse, Penn State, Rutgers, whatever. It's stupid. But,
even Virginia Tech, you could put in there.
Here's the thing, though. For instance, the ACC network, I think what's it going to make? About $22 million this year. The Big Ten network makes a lot of money. The SEC,
I can't even get the ACC network.
I understand that, but a lot of people do. But my point is, there's so much money that's invested in all this stuff. I don't know that it's going to be that easy to restructure.
No, I know. You're right.
If they're going to restructure, I'll tell you, the league to me that seems the most vulnerable is the Big 12. In terms of, if you wanted to blow something up, I could see the Big 12 getting blown up just because it's, sort of a hodgepodge of different schools. And, a lot of the schools are upset that Texas seems to have its own roles and all this other stuff. But
where would those teams go? Then other conferences like the SEC, the Big Ten would get bigger. None of maybe West Virginia potentially could go to ACC.
What's the Big
Ten? So the West Virginia could potentially go to the ACC. That would be it, though.
I think the ACC's got 14, the Big Ten's got 14, the Pac-12's got 14, right? The SEC's got 14. So there's 8 spots right there. You know what I mean? There's 8 spots. You take West Virginia. I don't know who would make sense in the SEC from there. I guess Oklahoma and, I don't know, whatever. But you understand what
Let's
I'm
go out to Bob in Clearfield and see what he has to say. What's up, Bob?
Hi, gentlemen. Hey, thank you very much. It's my understanding that the current situation can be attributed, at least in part, to what happened years ago when Paterno wanted to create an Eastern All-Sports Conference, and he was kind of using, he said, moving to Penn State to the Big Ten as leverage to get that. But as my understanding is that they called his bluff, and Penn State ended up in the Big Ten. Now, as unfortunate as the end of the Pitt-Penn State rivalry may be, nothing as egregious as these schools, big schools, playing a reservoir full of money just for the pleasure of beating up on, he said, woefully inferior smaller schools, just for the opportunity to ensure that that big school might get a chance to go to the inconsequential bowl, the why bother bowl,
thanks a lot, Bob. I appreciate it. I get what you're saying, and I was saying this. You should get negative points for playing such an inferior team like Idaho. You should have to play a Power 5 team, is my opinion. That would be my opinion.
I would
Even
agree.
Pitt shouldn't play teams like Villanova, Youngstown State.
Again, here's why that will never happen. Because Youngstown State, Villanova, the MAC schools, Idaho, whatever, they all make a lot of money. It's a big part of their budget is being able to play those games. So if you're going to say Power 5 schools can only play other Power 5 schools, you're taking a lot of money out of the pockets of the MAC schools and those other schools that.
But wouldn't you want to see a great game every week?
I understand that.
Can you even sit through a Penn State-Idaho game?
Let me ask you a question. Have you watched enough college sports in your life yet that you've realized that watching great games is not the priority of
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you.
You know what I mean? Let's have a few big games every week, but for the most part, it's about money. And you know what? One of the reasons why the Power 5 can continue to do, the Power 5 conferences can continue to do the things they want to do is because it's essentially basically hush money that they're paying these small schools. They're basically saying, listen, you know what? We'll keep the system in place. We'll continue to play you guys and dump a bunch of money into your programs, and then you'll be quiet and not sue us. That's why they can get away with it. And the thing is, if you like, for instance, who was it that beat Tennessee a couple weeks ago? Georgia Southern or Georgia State? I think it was Georgia State. They got $1 million to play at Tennessee. They got $1 million.
What do you
Tennessee.
think Idaho got?
Probably very similar, $850,000, $900,000. My point is, for a program like Penn State or Ohio State, $1 million is nothing.
Yeah.
But for those smaller programs, $1 million is a lot of money. So it's never going to change.
All right, we got a few phone calls on the line. I want to talk Pitt, Penn State. We'll get to those in a couple seconds, but we got to take a break. Back right after this.